people are wondering what does AI mean for impact management? How do we use it? What is generative AI? What's the difference between generative AI and regular AI? I'm learning along with everyone else. So basically, just let me preface this by saying that I've learned a couple of things, and I'll share some of them. Generative AI is a prediction model that is predicting what the most likely next word is. And it's predicting that based on sort of having grappled with all the information that's publicly available on the web, basically. And it can harvest, but you need special apps for this, can harvest content out of PDFs or images and things like that. So by being a prediction model, it could be wrong, whereas AI that isn't using a predictive model, that is deterministic, is simply applying an algorithm or aggregating, like how many times does a certain word appear to inform the interpretation of that data. So if you're having the AI automatically look at everything that's been written on social media about your company, you can get some idea of whether the comments are favorable to you or not. And that's not a probability model. That's just based on who's saying what, how often, essentially. Whereas you can maybe predict what might happen or how people might start to react in response to certain vectors that come into the field of view with predictive AI. So what that also means is that we can type in commands to tools like ChatGPT and tell it to do things for us and think about things for us based on what it knows. And so one of the best ways to learn about how to do this well is by, experimenting with ChatGPT, which is free to use. You have to enter have to create an identity with them, but you can try different prompts, observe how the model reacts, and then validate what it tells you with what you already know, hopefully, if you know something about something. So you can see where it is correct based on what you know is true, and where it's making stuff up, which it does sometimes. And the less dense the field of data is for it, the more likely what it says is likely to be true is wrong. So you just need to know that. The other thing to know is that if you enter personally identifiable information, it will be in there forever. So do that mindfully. All right, so what's interesting is that AI and impact management are converging. And indeed, not only are people thinking about what's the social impact of AI, or indeed the environmental impact of AI, but impact management professionals can use AI to inform our own understanding of what's out there or just speed the work in certain ways. I heard anecdotally about someone that's not an impact manager per se, but like a law firm that had used generative AI to do a bunch of research, and then it was in court and asserted that there was a law that said X, Y, and Z in the precedent, which was a made-up law. So just be careful and don't use what they tell you without validating it. And they're in trouble now. But basically, there's something in the AI world called decision intelligence, which is a term coined by Dr. Lorian Pratt. And what that is to me is impact management. It's about informing the actions you are taking to cause impact with information generated by AI. That's what decision intelligence is. And that's the same thing in my view as impact management. So these worlds are very, very intertwined, if not actually the same thing to a great extent. And so I think that's exciting. And we see things like Climate Trace, which was just announced at COP28. Climate Trace is using satellite and other remote sensing technologies to spot specifically greenhouse gas emissions activities on the planet. and they're using big data and AI enabled analytics. So what's happening with that is that corporations like Tesla and Boeing are using this data to pinpoint decarbonization strategies. So if they can see that there's one supply chain partner that's throwing off a lot of greenhouse gases and another one that's not, which you can tell from satellites, they can prioritize which of those supply chain partners to work with, just as an example. And that's really a brand new thing. Previously, getting to that scale of information of that quality would have had to rely on the government and, the space agencies, and indeed still does. But there's a lot of private sector satellite, sensing going on now. And those tools are becoming more accessible to retail users, even for free. So check out climatetrace.org as one interesting example of that. There's also Earth systems predictability, meaning not just greenhouse gases are of interest, but the Earth's systems for supporting life of all kinds of systems can also be understood better using these combinations of tools, which are now there. And so we're seeing this convergence of the information and then making of it more useful so that practitioners in the field, investors, can tap into that knowledge and start directing their resources accordingly. So there's going to be a ton more of that kind of thing happening, and not just in the environmental space.